The door creaked open, and the room braced for a frightened little girl. Instead, what entered wasn't fear. It was fire. A 12-year-old stepped forward, eyes unflinching, hands steady, carrying a silence so heavy even the bailiff shifted back. She didn't wait. She didn't blink. She locked her gaze on Judge Judy and spoke, not timidly, not disrespectfully, but with a truth so raw that half the courtroom gasped aloud. Judge Judy froze, not in anger, but in shock, because the girl wasn't challenging authority, she was exposing it. In less than 60 seconds, her words flipped the entire case upside down. And when she finished, the room didn't just fall silent, it trembled. You will be shocked when you hear what she said. The silence she created in the opening moment still clung to the air like static when Section 1 truly begins. The girl stands there, small frame, steady spine, while the courtroom tries to understand how someone so young could command space so completely. Even Judge Judy, who has seen every flavor of arrogance, fear, and theatrics, studies her with a rare, measured stillness. The girl doesn't shrink beneath the judge's gaze. She doesn't fidget, doesn't look down, doesn't brace like she expects punishment. Instead, she stands with her chin slightly raised, the kind of posture you see in children who have learned to protect themselves without anyone teaching them how. A soft, nervous breath comes from behind her. Her mother sits on the plaintiff's bench, fingers twisted together, eyes begging the girl to stay polite, maybe even silent. But the child isn't here to perform politeness, she's here to speak. Judge Judy leans forward, elbows resting on the bench, watching the girl with the same attention she'd give a witness twice her age. The judge's voice comes out calm, even, but edged with curiosity. "Young lady, tell me your name." The girl answers with clarity, her voice strong enough to echo off the wooden panels. She doesn't rush, she doesn't stumble. She tells her name like someone telling truth for the first time in a long time. The courtroom shifts again, subtle but noticeable. A camera operator adjusts focus, a spectator leans forward. Even the bailiff stops pretending to look neutral. Something about this child radiates a story no one prepared for. Judge Judy doesn't waste time. "And why?" she asks. "Did you step forward today?" That is the moment the girl breathes in, slow, controlled, like someone choosing courage over comfort. She glances at the defendant seated across the aisle. He tries to hold her stare, but his confidence falters, slipping like a mask that no longer fits. "I stepped forward," the girl says softly, "because the adults keep lying." The words drift across the room, quiet but sharp, cutting through every rehearsed version of events. Her mother shuts her eyes. The defendant shifts in his seat, jaw tightening. Judge Judy, however, stays absolutely still. The girl continues, not with anger, but with an honesty so raw the room feels smaller, as if her voice is pulling the walls closer around them. She explains that she watched two grown-ups twist what happened, twist it so much she barely recognized her own memories in their versions. She describes hearing arguments behind doors, the kind that teach children more than they should ever need to learn. "And I'm tired," she adds. "I'm tired of pretending I don't know the truth." Judge Judy's eyes sharpen, not at the girl, but at the adults who forced this moment into being. Her silence becomes a kind of judgment, heavier than words. The girl holds her breath, waiting, finally waiting, for someone to acknowledge what she's carried alone. Judge Judy slowly nods. "Then," she says, voice steady as a gavel, "what exactly is this truth you're here to tell?" And the girl's next words will crack the entire case open. The girl does not wait for the room to brace itself. She inhales once, quiet, deliberate, and when she speaks again, her voice lands with the weight of someone who has carried the truth far too long. "It started the night they both said they were protecting me," she says. The words float into a silence so fragile, even the ceiling lights seem to buzz softer. Judge Judy doesn't interrupt. She watches the girl the way a surgeon watches a heartbeat monitor, steady, attentive, preparing for the moment the truth cuts deeper. The defendant leans forward in his chair, gripping the armrests. The mother stiffens, whispering something under her breath, a prayer or an apology no one can hear. But the girl keeps going, eyes locked straight ahead, refusing to hide behind either of them. "They were arguing," she continues, "not about what happened. but about what they wanted people to believe happened. A ripple moves across the audience benches as people shift, whisper, readjust themselves to the possibility that this case isn't about petty accusations or disagreements. It is something heavier. Something shaped in the quiet corners of a child's world. Judge Judy nods slowly. Go on. The girl's voice remains calm, but her hands tighten slightly at her sides, a tiny tremor, a fault line revealing the pressure beneath the surface. They talked about what they would say in court, what they wouldn't say, what they'd pretend not to remember. Her eyes flicked to the defendant, then away. I heard them blame each other, but they both agreed on one thing. She hesitates for just a breath. They agreed that I should not talk. Judge Judy's eyebrows lift, not in surprise, but in recognition. She has seen this pattern before, adults playing tug-of-war with their own version of innocence, leaving a child tangled in the middle. And why? Judy asks carefully. Do you believe they didn't want you to talk? The girl's voice sharpens. Not with anger, but with clarity. Because the truth doesn't choose sides. For a moment, the courtroom forgets to breathe. Even the defendant looks taken aback, unsure whether to speak or pretend her words don't matter. She continues. They've been telling different stories about the same night, and they think I'm just a kid who will stay confused or quiet. She shakes her head. But I'm not confused, and I didn't forget. Her mother finally speaks, barely audible. Sweetheart, please. The girl doesn't turn around. It's not defiance, it's resolve. A child who has finally reached the moment she refused to fear anymore. Judge Judy's gaze narrows. What is the part they didn't want you to tell me? The girl swallows, lifting her chin again. The tremble in her hand stops. The composure returns. That's not even the part you need to hear, she says. The room tightens, like the walls have leaned in. Judge Judy tilts her head. Then what is? And the girl's next sentence will unravel everything the adults tried to build. The defendant moves first, too fast, too loud. That is not true, he snaps, pushing up from his chair, as if proximity might give him back the control he lost. She's a child. She doesn't understand what she heard. Judge Judy raises a single hand without looking at him. The silence that follows is not stillness. It is warning. Sit, she says. He does, but not because he wants to. The girl watches him without blinking, not with hostility, but with an exhaustion that does not belong in a 12-year-old's eyes. She has seen this reaction before, adults scrambling to rewrite her truth before she has even finished speaking it. Judge Judy turns back to her. Keep going. The girl breathes out slowly and picks up where she left off. They didn't want me to talk because if I told the truth, someone would look bad, and they both wanted the other one to look worse. The mother covers her mouth with trembling fingers. Her eyes are wide, red at the edges, silently pleading for the child to stop or slow down or soften this unraveling. But the girl keeps her focus straight ahead, anchored by something deeper than fear. The defendant forces a laugh, thin, brittle, the kind that cracks instead of convinces. You're twisting things. Kids exaggerate. This time, the girl turns her head toward him just slightly. Her expression doesn't change. But her voice does. It becomes colder, clearer, as if she has finally decided she is done being dismissed. I'm not exaggerating, she says. You are. The courtroom reacts like a gust of wind blew through it. Small gasps, sharp breaths, a few exchanged glances. Even the bailiff freezes mid-step, eyes narrowing as if he suddenly understands who the real adult in this conversation is. The defendant opens his mouth again, but the girl cuts him off, softly, politely, but unmistakably. You told me to stay quiet today. Every molecule in the room shifts at once. Judge Judy straightens. He told you what? The defendant shakes his head rapidly, hands raised as if trying to block the words themselves. That never happened. She's confused. She is not confused, Judge Judy snaps, this time with steel. The girl continues, voice steady even though her hands begin to fidget for the first time. He said, let me handle this. Kids mess things up when they talk. And then he said, I should remember who helps me more. The mother's eyes fill instantly, guilt blooming across her face like a bruise finally exposed to light. The defendant sputters, scrambling for coherence. She misunderstood, but the girl gently shakes her head. I didn't misunderstand. I memorized it. Judge Judy exhales through her nose, a slow, measured release that fills the room with something heavier than anger, certainty. She leans forward, eyes narrowing with the precision of someone who has found the first real crack in the wall. Is there anything else he told you not to repeat in this courtroom? The girl hesitates, not out of fear, but calculation. And then, with a glance that sends a ripple through every corner of the room, "Yes," she says, "and you're not going to like it." The hesitation lingers in the air like a held breath. Judge Judy does not rush her. She lets the silence stretch, lets the room feel the weight of whatever truth is waiting on the girl's tongue. Even the cameras pause their slow pan, lenses settling on the child as if they too sense the moment about to split open. Finally, the girl speaks. He told me that if I said what I saw that night, he would make sure people thought I was lying." The defendant jolts upright. "That is not—" "Stop!" Judge Judy's voice is a blade. "Right now." The mother buries her face in her hands. The tension in the courtroom thickens, the kind of silence that feels like gravity increasing by the second. The girl continues, voice soft but unwavering. "He said kids ruin things, that adults don't get in trouble unless someone stupid talks, and he said that if anything went wrong, it would be my fault." A cold shiver passes through the courtroom. Several spectators shake their heads. A woman in the second row presses her hand to her chest. The bailiff stiffens like someone just stepped into dangerous territory. Judge Judy turns her gaze onto the defendant, slow and deliberate, like a spotlight narrowing to its target. "You told a 12-year-old child that this situation would be her fault?" He swallows hard. I was frustrated. Things were tense. She took it the wrong way." The girl finally looks at him fully. No anger, no fear, just truth. "I took it exactly the way you said it." Judge Judy doesn't blink. "And did you tell her to stay quiet in this courtroom today?" He fumbles for words, any words, but every syllable escapes him like broken glass. I might have said she should let the adults talk. That's normal." "It is not normal," Judge Judy replies sharply, "to intimidate a child into silence so you can control a narrative." The girl inhales, then drops the detail that detonates the first major twist. "You said I should say I didn't see you leave the house that night, but I did." The room stops. Absolutely stops. Judge Judy freezes mid-breath. The mother lifts her face from her hands, eyes wide with devastation. A murmur ripples through the audience benches like a quiet shockwave. The defendant's composure evaporates. "That is a lie. I never left." But the girl keeps going, unshaken. "You did, at 9:17. You dropped something on the porch. I heard the door. And you came back 20 minutes later smelling like smoke." Judge Judy's eyes darken with sudden clarity. She turns to the clerk. "Bring me the file, now." The clerk hurries to the back, retrieves a thick manila folder, and places it in front of Judge Judy. She opens it slowly, carefully, like she already suspects what she's about to find. She scans the first page, then the second. Her jaw tightens. Because the timeline, the defendant's sworn statement, and his entire story hinge on him never leaving the house that night. And now a 12-year-old has just shattered that foundation with a single, steady sentence. Judge Judy lifts her eyes, voice low, dangerous. "Sir, you have lied to this court." But the twist is not finished. Her gaze shifts back to the girl. "Tell me," she says, leaning forward, "what exactly did you see him drop on the porch?" And the girl's answer will rip the case wide open. The question hangs in the air like an unanswered alarm. Judge Judy's eyes never leave the girl's face as she waits, calm, steady, unblinking. But the rest of the room leans forward inch by inch, as if drawn by a string. The girl finally answers. "It was a piece of paper," she says softly, "folded. I thought it was trash at first, until I saw his writing on it." A faint tremor ripples through the defendant's posture, not panic, yet, but the beginning of it. His fingers twitch against the armrest, searching for something to hold on to. Judge Judy gestures for the clerk to slide the file closer. The folder lands with a weight that feels like moral gravity. She opens it again, slower this time, as if expecting the papers to betray him before he speaks another word. What kind of paper? She asks. The girl swallows gently. A note, a short one, only a few words. The mother looks like she's unraveling from the inside, shoulders tight, breath uneven, eyes flickering between her daughter and the man across the aisle. The defendant forces a laugh, but it breaks halfway through. A note? That's ridiculous. She's making things up now. Judge Judy lifts a single finger. Do not speak. The command slices the air clean. The girl continues, voice steadying. He picked it up fast. I only saw 3 words, but I remember them. Judge Judy leans in. Tell me. The girl closes her eyes for one brief second, replaying the memory. When she opens them again, her voice has the tone of someone reciting something burned into her mind. It is done. Shock travels the courtroom like a cold draft. A spectator gasps, another whispers, "What does that even mean?" The bailiff shifts closer, sensing tension that no one else wants to name yet. Judge Judy moves through the file with sharper precision, turning pages, scanning forms, receipts, statements, then stopping suddenly. Her eyes harden. She lifts a document between 2 fingers. "This is your statement," she says to the defendant. "Signed, under oath." He tries to look confident, but his breathing betrays him. "And according to this," she continues, tapping the paper, "you claimed you never left the house at any point during that hour." He nods too quickly. "Correct, because I didn't." The girl doesn't even look at him. "You did." Judge Judy places the document flat on the desk as if laying out a contradiction for the world to witness. "And yet she remembers you leaving, at a specific time, for a specific duration, and returning smelling like smoke." Her voice sharpens. And now we have a cryptic note that reads, "It is done." She slides the file aside, her expression no longer curious, but calculated. "Sir," she says slowly, "if there is anything in this file that contradicts your sworn testimony, you are in very deep waters." The defendant's throat bobs as he swallows. "Your Honor, stop." The word lands heavier than a gavel strike. The girl watches, silent but resolute, as if she's been waiting years for someone to catch this lie. Judge Judy shifts her attention back to her. "When you say he smelled like smoke, what kind of smoke are we talking about?" The girl hesitates, the faintest crack in her confidence forming for the first time, and when she speaks, her words drain the remaining warmth from the room. "Not cigarette smoke," she whispers, "the kind you smell when something is burning." And just like that, the entire courtroom stops breathing. Because now, this is no longer a simple lie. It is the beginning of something far darker. The word burning spreads through the courtroom like invisible smoke, thin, creeping, suffocating. No one moves, not the audience, not the mother, not even the defendant, whose face drains of color so quickly it seems the truth is pulling the blood from him. Judge Judy studies the girl carefully, not with suspicion, but with a gravity usually reserved for adults who finally decide to tell the truth. "What do you mean by that?" she asks quietly. The girl tucks her hands together, steadying them. "I know the difference," she replies. "Cigarette smoke smells sharp. This didn't. It smelled burnt, like something used to be whole and wasn't anymore." A tremor curls through the mother's shoulders. She presses her knuckles to her lips as if holding something inside, fear, guilt, or the realization that her daughter has carried far more truth than she ever admitted. The defendant shifts violently in his seat. She's exaggerating. Kids don't know these things. Judge Judy does not even spare him a glance. "Enough," she snaps. Her focus returns to the child, gentler now. "Did you see anything else? Anything unusual? Anything he carried?" The girl pauses. Not because she is unsure, but because she is choosing her next step carefully, the way someone does when they know what they say will change everything. Finally, she nods. "Yes, but I only understood it later." Judy leans forward. "What was it?" The girl's voice softens to a near whisper. "A matchbook." She swallows. "He dropped it with the paper, before he noticed me watching." A collective exhale ripples through the benches, sharp, fearful, genuine. The defendant closes his eyes just once, but long enough to send panic through his own posture. Judge Judy turns her head slowly, like a spotlight narrowing to its final target. "Sir," she says, "you left the house, you wrote a note, you returned smelling like something was burning, and now she says you dropped a matchbook. Is there anything in this file that explains that? He shakes his head too fast. This is blown out of proportion. She's a child. She doesn't understand context. But he doesn't finish. Because Judge Judy has shifted her attention, not to him, to the girl's small backpack resting at her feet. "What's in your bag?" she asks. The child looks down, then back up, clearly startled. "Just my things." "Did you," Judy says carefully, "bring anything with you today that you haven't shown us yet?" Silence falls again, deeper than before. The kind that carries weight, the kind that signals something has been hiding in plain sight. The girl slowly bends down, unzips the backpack, and reaches inside. Her fingers hover for a few seconds, just long enough for suspense to tighten around every breath in the room. Then she pulls out a folded piece of paper. "This," she whispers, "is why I had to talk." Her mother gasps. The defendant stiffens. Judge Judy gestures for her to bring it forward. "Let me see that." The girl walks it to the bench, each step small but unshakably brave. She places the paper in the judge's hand. Judy unfolds it. Her eyes widen, her jaw tightens, and for the first time in this case, Judge Judy looks shaken. Because whatever is written on that paper does not just contradict the defendant, it exposes the entire truth he has been running from. If you were sitting in that courtroom, would you trust the child's memory or the adults trying to control the story? Judge Judy does not speak at first. She just stares at the unfolded paper, her eyes moving slowly across the ink. The way someone reads a confession they were never supposed to see. The courtroom waits, rigid, breathless, afraid of the truth settling over them like dust. The defendant is the first to break the silence. "What is that?" he demands, voice cracking at the edges. "What is she showing you? She shouldn't even have—" "Stop talking," Judge Judy says, each syllable as cold as a steel latch closing. The mother shifts forward on the bench, tears starting again, softer this time, like she is watching something she always feared eventually materializing. The girl stands still, hands clasped in front of her, gaze steady though her breath comes a little faster now. Judy finally lifts her eyes to the defendant. "Sir, do you recognize this handwriting?" He squints, panic seeping into his expression. I can't see it from here." "That is not what I asked." He swallows. His throat audibly clicks. "It looks like mine. But that doesn't mean—" "It is yours," Judy interrupts. "Your looping R's, your slanted T's, your habit of pressing harder at the end of sentences." She taps the bottom line with her finger. "This is your writing." The girl closes her eyes for a brief second, relief and fear colliding behind her lashes. The mother leans over, gripping the edge of her seat as though grounding herself in something solid. "What does it say?" she whispers. Judge Judy turns the paper so the courtroom can see it. The words simple, blunt, devastating. "It is done." She won't talk. The room erupts, gasps, murmurs, a low hum of disbelief swelling like a rising storm. The defendant's face collapses inward, his composure dissolves. Something about seeing his own words exposed in daylight snaps whatever fragile hold he still had on his lies. That wasn't about her," he stammers. "It was about something else I was talking about." "Do not finish that sentence," Judy warns. Her stare is ice. "Do not insult this courtroom by pretending this message has any context other than silencing this child." The girl lifts her chin, meeting his eyes with a steady, heartbreaking calm. "You wrote it after telling me not to say anything. I saw you." The defendant begins to unravel in real time, breathing fast, blinking too often, hands trembling despite his attempt to hide them beneath the table. The mother finally finds her voice, trembling but fierce. "You tried to scare her into protecting you? You tried to make her carry your lies?" His expression crumples. I just didn't want things to get worse." "For who?" Judge Judy fires back. For the first time, he has no answer. Judge Judy exhales through her nose, slow and sharp. She turns to the girl again. "Is there anything else you have not told us?" The girl hesitates, just a pause but a heavy one. Then she nods. Her voice is barely above a whisper, but it slices deeper than anything before it. "Yes, there's one more thing." And the room sinks into silence, bracing for the truth that will change everything. Everything in the courtroom tightens. Air, posture, silence. The girl's yes still hangs there, vibrating like a struck wire. Judge Judy leans in, the room shrinking around her focus. "What is it?" she asks, voice low, controlled, ready. The girl's eyes flick briefly to the defendant, then back to Judge Judy. For the first time, she looks unsure. Not afraid, she has already walked past fear, but uncertain whether the truth she's about to reveal will be believed. He sees that flicker of hesitation and pounces. "You don't have to say anything," he blurts. "You're confused. You've been dragged into adult business you don't understand." "Enough," Judge Judy cuts in, sharper than the crack of a whip. "Do not speak another word while she is talking." But the damage is done. The girl's hands tremble. Her breath catches. She blinks hard, fighting the instinct he drilled into her. Silence makes adults comfortable. Judge Judy sees it, the internal war, the courage wavering, and she steps in like a hand reaching through smoke. "You are safe," she says, voice steady, warm beneath its firmness. "You will not be punished for telling the truth. Not here, not today, not ever." The girl closes her eyes, just 1 second, and when they open again, the hesitation is gone. "I wasn't holding back because I was scared," she says quietly. "I held back because I thought no one would believe a kid over him." A ripple of emotion moves through the benches. Some people look down, some look angry, but everyone feels it. A child deciding to finally drop the weight she's carried alone. Judge Judy nods once. "I believe you." Those 3 words shift the entire balance of the room. The girl exhales slowly, a release that sounds like breaking and healing at the same time. Then she reveals the truth that flips the entire case upside down. "He didn't just leave the house that night," she says, voice firm now. "He went to the neighbor's shed. I followed him from the upstairs window. I saw him light something. I saw the glow, and when he came back, he was holding something." Judge Judy stiffens. "What was he holding?" The room seems to inhale as one. The girl answers, "A small metal box." A wave of shock ripples across the courtroom. The defendant freezes, face draining, the lie collapsing beneath him like a scaffold cut loose. Judge Judy turns her full attention to him, voice cold as winter steel. "You never mentioned a metal box. You never mentioned leaving. You never mentioned any of this." "I didn't do anything!" he bursts out, the last splinter of control shattering. "Yes," the girl says softly. "You did." Judge Judy slams her gavel once, hard enough to send silence exploding outward. "This changes everything," she says. The defendant's breathing turns erratic. His palms sweat. His eyes dart to the exits as though searching for an escape route that simply does not exist anymore, because the power has officially shifted. The girl is no longer the quiet witness. She is the key, the observer whose truth finally outweighs his lies. Judge Judy folds her hands, studying the man whose entire story just went up in flames. "Sir," she says softly, dangerously, "we are reopening this entire case from the ground up." But before she can continue, the girl lifts a hand slightly, almost apologetically. "There's something inside the box," she whispers. Judge Judy freezes. The courtroom freezes. And for the first time, even the defendant stops breathing. The words "something inside the box" settle over the room like a shadow stretching across the floor. No one speaks. Even the hum of the light seems to dim, as if the building itself is listening. Judge Judy leans forward slowly, fingers interlacing, eyes fixed on the girl with a gentleness wrapped in steel. "Let us go step by step," she says. "Take a breath. Tell me exactly what you saw." The girl draws in air through her nose, controlled, practiced, like someone who has had to calm herself long before today. "When he came back from the shed," she begins, "he was holding a metal box, small, dark, like it used to be shiny but got burned." A murmur ripples through the gallery. The defendant shifts violently, his composure cracking in new places. His knee bounces, his breathing picks up, his eyes dart like a trapped animal. Judge Judy notices everything. "Sir," she says coolly, "you might want to regain control of yourself. You are behaving like a man who recognizes what she's describing." "I don't," he yells. "I don't know what she's talking about." But the audience hears the tremor in his voice, the kind that only comes from guilt cornered at last. The mother wipes her eyes again, this time not to hide tears, but to see the truth clearly. "I should have listened to her," she whispers. "I should have asked what she saw." Her voice shakes with something deeper than grief. Regret. The girl turns to her mother just slightly, her voice gentler now. I didn't know if telling you would make things worse. He always said it would. Judge Judy's gaze cuts to the defendant. You told this child that the truth would make things worse? He opens his mouth, but nothing comes out, because the answer is already obvious. Judge Judy turns back to the girl. You said earlier that the adults keep lying. Tell me something. Her voice lowers, softer, more human. Who taught you that the truth did not matter? The question hangs. For the first time, the girl's face shifts. Not fear, not anger. Something older, tired, heavy. She looks down at her shoes. Her voice is barely a thread. Everyone, every time they changed the story, every time they said to stay quiet, every time they pretended I didn't know what I saw. The room absorbs her words like a wound taking in salt. Judge Judy's expression changes, just slightly, a softening, an understanding. You deserve better than that, she says quietly. The defendant sucks in a breath, a desperate, broken sound. She's ruining my life. Judge Judy slams her gavel once, sharp, final, silencing. She is saving herself, sir. And the only life being ruined here is the one built on your lies. The gallery murmurs in agreement, a low emotional current rising. The girl finally lifts her head and her voice comes back steadier. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just wanted someone to listen. Judge Judy nods slowly, her voice soft but edged with truth. I am listening. Then she turns toward the defendant, eyes narrowing. And now it is time to listen to you answer for what she witnessed. But before she can continue, the girl speaks again, unprompted, fragile, brave. There's more I haven't shown you yet. The room stiffens. Judge Judy's voice lowers. More from that night? The girl nods, and the weight of her honesty settles like a storm about to break open. Do you think remorse should ever erase guilt, or does the truth demand consequence no matter what? Her words linger. There's more I haven't shown you yet. It settles into the air like dust drifting through sunlight, visible, delicate, impossible to ignore. Judge Judy watches her carefully, her expression neither harsh nor soft, but something in between, a kind of respectful stillness reserved only for people who have carried too much for too long. Take your time, Judy says. You speak when you are ready. The girl swallows, and for the first time, her voice comes out thinner, the edges trembling from the weight she's been holding back. I didn't tell everything because I learned a long time ago that telling the truth makes things worse for kids. A quiet shock moves through the courtroom, not from surprise, but from heartbreak. The mother's face collapses into silent tears. She nods to herself, shoulders folding inward, finally understanding the price her daughter has paid. The defendant shifts again, but this time his panic is overshadowed by something else. Recognition. Because deep down, he knows exactly how much he conditioned her silence. Judge Judy leans closer. Who taught you that? Tell the court. The girl hesitates only for a moment. You both did. The mother flinches as if struck. The defendant freezes. The girl continues, soft, steady, devastatingly clear. Every time you two lied to each other or about each other, I saw it. You told different stories about the same things. You changed your memories when it made you look better. And every time I tried to explain what really happened, one of you would say, that's not what happened, or don't say that, or you're confused. She looks at her shoes again, her voice cracking on the next line. And I started believing it. I thought maybe something was wrong with me. Maybe I couldn't remember right. A spectator in the back lets out a heavy exhale. Someone else wipes their eyes. The tension in the room shifts from suspicion to sorrow. The girl draws a shaky breath. I stopped trusting myself. I stopped speaking up. And the night he left the house, I almost didn't want to believe I saw it, because if I was wrong, I'd get in trouble. And if I was right, everything would get worse. Judge Judy's voice softens, but the intensity beneath it sharpens. You are not the problem, young lady. The adults who failed you are. The defendant shakes his head rapidly. She's twisting things she doesn't know. Quiet, Judy snaps, sharper than any blade. You do not get to interrupt a child explaining how your actions broke her. The girl wipes a tear from her cheek, not with shame, but with a kind of release. I'm telling the truth now because I'm done pretending everything is fine. I'm done protecting people who never protected me. Her mother breaks into quiet sobs, covering her mouth with both hands. Judge Judy nods once, deeply. And now, she says, voice steady as bedrock, tell us the final thing you saw, the thing inside the metal box. The girl lifts her eyes, courage and fear mingling in a way that makes the room lean in. She opens her mouth, but the words don't come. Not yet. Instead, she whispers, it wasn't something he found. It was something he kept. And the entire courtroom goes still, bracing for the truth that will tear open the heart of the case. Judge Judy's face sharpens, not with anger, but with a rare protective intensity reserved for moments she knows will change everything. Something he kept, she repeats, her voice low. Go on. The girl's throat works as she swallows. Her hands twist together, small fingers tightening around each other as if bracing for impact. She looks at her mother, just for a second, but her mother's already crying, shoulders shaking, eyes pleading for forgiveness she hasn't earned. The girl looks back to Judge Judy. It wasn't something scary because of what it was, she begins. It was scary because of who it was from. The defendant's breathing stutters. The courtroom freezes. Judge Judy doesn't blink. Tell me. The girl inhales, gathering herself. Her voice comes out small, fragile, but unmistakably certain. The metal box had letters in it. A ripple of confusion moves through the crowd. Letters? Judge Judy echoes. The girl nods. But not new ones, old ones, ones he kept hidden. The defendant's face drains of every last drop of color. His hand shoots up as if to object, instinctively, desperately, but Judy's glare pins him in place before a syllable escapes. Go on, she tells the girl gently. They were letters from my mom, the girl says. Letters she wrote him years ago, letters he never gave her, letters she thought she lost. The mother's breath catches, a sharp inhale that wrenches her entire body. What? She whispers. What letters? The girl's eyes shine, but she doesn't look away. You wrote him after you left the first time. You asked him to explain what happened that night. You said you didn't understand. You wanted answers. The defendant shakes his head violently, panic cracking through him like lightning. She's lying. She never... Those letters didn't... But the girl keeps going, her voice trembling but resolute. He kept them. All of them. He didn't want you to see them. He didn't want things fixed. He didn't want you to leave again. He wanted you confused, scared, and stuck. A wave of horror spreads across the courtroom. Because this isn't just manipulation. It's history rewritten. It's stolen truth. The mother breaks completely, crying into her hands. He told me I never tried to talk. He told me I disappeared. He told me... He lied, the girl whispers. He lied so you'd stay scared, so he could stay in charge. Judge Judy sits back, breath leaving her in a slow, stunned exhale. Her eyes soften as they move over the girl, then harden as they land on the defendant. You weren't protecting your family, she says, voice low and devastating. You were controlling it. He collapses into his chair, shaking his head, but not out of defiance. Out of a man finally seeing the truth he barricaded himself behind, crumble beneath him. The girl wipes her face with the back of her hand. That's why I followed him. That's why I remembered everything. Because that night, I thought he was burning those letters. The room gasps. Even Judge Judy's mouth tightens in shock. But he didn't burn them, the girl continues. He hid them again, in the box, in the shed. Judge Judy leans in, voice barely above a whisper. Why? Why keep them all these years? The girl looks directly at the defendant, the first time she meets his eyes without fear. Because the truth scared him more than lying did. Judge Judy inhales sharply, and then softly. Young lady, I need to know exactly what was written in those letters. The girl closes her eyes. When she opens them, her answer will break the entire case open at the deepest emotional level yet. The air in the courtroom feels thick now, heavy with truths unearthed and wounds reopened. The girl stands at the center of it all, small and trembling, yet undeniably powerful in the light of honesty. Judge Judy softens her posture just slightly, sensing that what comes next will not be sharp like accusation, but tender like a bruise finely touched. Take your time, Judy says gently. Tell me what was in the letters. The girl nods, eyes lowering to the floor as if pulling the memories from somewhere deep inside her. When she finally speaks, her voice is fragile, soft enough that the entire room leans forward to hear. They weren't angry letters, she begins. They weren't mean or scary. Mom wasn't yelling at him. She wasn't blaming him. She was confused, sad, trying to understand. The mother cries harder, her shoulders curling in shame. The defendant looks away, jaw clenched so tight it shakes. The girl continues. She wrote that she didn't understand why he yelled at her, why he blamed her for things she didn't do, why he kept changing stories and then saying she remembered it wrong. Judge Judy watches her carefully, pain flickering in her expression. Go on, she encourages softly. She wrote that she still loved him, the girl whispers, that she wanted their family to be okay, that she wanted me to be safe. The mother covers her mouth as a sob escapes. The defendant's eyes close, but not in denial. This time, it's something closer to defeat. And, the girl says, voice cracking, she begged him to tell the truth. A hush moves through the room, slow, devastating, thick with the weight of a woman reaching out for honesty and receiving silence instead. Judge Judy nods slowly. And he hid those letters. Yes. Why do you think he hid them? The girl's eyes lift, shining with a pain no 12-year-old should know. Because they made him look wrong, and he didn't want to be wrong. He didn't want anyone to know he hurt her or that she asked for help. Her voice breaks. He didn't want me to know. Her mother whispers, "Oh, sweetheart," trembling, voice soaked in grief. "I should have fought harder. I should have—" The girl turns slightly, tears rolling now despite her effort to stay strong. "I didn't tell you because I thought it would make things worse. If you were sad because of him, I thought it was my fault. I thought the fighting was my fault. I didn't want to be the reason everything fell apart." The mother's sob becomes a quiet wail, raw with years of unspoken fear. Judge Judy intervenes softly, firmly. "You were never the reason. These adults created the pain. You simply lived inside it." The girl wipes her face with trembling fingers. "I kept the truth inside because it felt safer to be quiet. But quiet hurts too." Judge Judy's voice lowers, thick with empathy. "Thank you for telling us. You're incredibly brave." But the girl looks up with haunted eyes. "I'm not done." Judy straightens. "What else?" The girl hesitates, one long, painful pause. Then, "There's something in the box, something I don't think you're expecting." The entire courtroom stills. Even Judge Judy stops breathing, because whatever she is about to reveal next is the final piece that pulls everything together. The courtroom sits in a stunned, breathless hush after the girl's last words. Judge Judy's fingers drum once on the bench, thoughtful, deliberate, before folding together. Her voice shifts now, no longer just gentle, no longer simply curious. This is the tone of consequence, the tone of a judge stepping fully into the role the moment demands. "All right," Judy says, "we move forward carefully. Young lady, you've carried enough. For now, let me handle what comes next." The girl nods, relief and fear mingling across her small features. She steps back, as if finally allowed to breathe. Judge Judy shifts her gaze to the defendant, slowly, like a storm front rolling in. "You withheld letters. You lied repeatedly. You manipulated this child. You forced her into silence. You knowingly rewrote events to protect yourself and compromise the truth." Her words drop one by one, each heavier than the last. "You have done more damage than this courtroom was ever intended to witness." The defendant's face contorts, half guilt, half panic. I didn't know, I was just—" "You were just what?" Judy presses. "Just cornered? Just desperate? Just hoping no one would find what you kept hidden in that metal box?" He flinches, and that flinch confirms far more than any testimony could. The mother straightens in her seat, wiping her tears but lifting her chin. Something inside her, long dormant, rekindles. The strength she thought she'd lost shows itself again in the set of her jaw, in the tightening of her hand around her daughter's shoulder. Judge Judy notices. "This child," she says, turning slightly toward the mother, "has shown more honesty in 1 hour than the adults responsible for her well-being have shown in years." Pain flashes across the mother's face, but Judy continues, firm, not cruel. You allowed this situation to grow. You allowed confusion and silence to take root. But I see something different now. She nods toward the girl. Because she spoke up, and you finally listened. The mother nods, tears returning. But these are different. These are the tears of someone awakening. Judge Judy turns back to the defendant. You, on the other hand, have weaponized silence. You controlled the narrative, not to protect this child, but to protect yourself. He drops his gaze, shoulders slumping, his last defenses collapsing. Judy reaches for a pen, tapping it once against the desk. Depending on what remains in that metal box, you may face consequences outside this courtroom. But what I can do here today is begin to undo the damage you caused. She looks at the girl, voice softening. You deserve safety, stability, truth. Then she looks at the mother. And she deserves a parent who stands with her, not behind her. Finally, she addresses the defendant one last time. You are about to lose control of this narrative permanently. It is no longer yours to bend. He swallows hard, his voice barely audible. What happens now? Judge Judy inhales slowly, ready to deliver the next decisive step. But before she can answer, the girl steps forward again, her voice shaking, but firm. I can show you what's in the box. Judge Judy pauses, eyes widening. Right now? The girl nods, and the courtroom braces, because whatever waits in that metal box will determine everything that comes next. The courtroom holds its breath as the girl places the metal box on Judge Judy's bench. It's small, palm-sized, rust along the edges, soot staining the corners like fingerprints from a fire that almost consumed the truth. Every eye follows it. Every heartbeat seems to sink in the stillness. Judge Judy adjusts her glasses, not out of necessity, but out of reverence. Step back, sweetheart, she says softly. The girl obeys, retreating to her mother, who wraps an arm around her with a protectiveness years overdue. Judge Judy touches the lid, then hesitates. This box contains evidence, she says. But more than that, it contains answers the adults in this room have run from. The defendant shakes his head violently. It's not what she thinks. Sit, Judy commands. Her voice cracks through the air like lightning. He sinks back into his chair, sweat glistening on his forehead, his breathing shallow and loud. His world is unraveling, thread by thread, and he feels every stitch come undone. Judy opens the box. Inside lay the remnants of a story he never wanted anyone to read. Old letters, creased, yellowed, warped with age and smoke. A photograph, burned at one corner, edges brittle. A small ribbon, frayed, childish, tied in a lopsided bow. And at the bottom, flattened by time, a handmade card in a child's handwriting. Please stop fighting. I love you both. The courtroom gasps. The girl covers her mouth with both hands as tears spill over because she recognizes it. Her mother's knees buckle and she sinks into her seat. Judge Judy's face shifts, not with shock, but with profound, simmering sorrow. This card, she says, lifting it gently, is from you? The girl nods, barely able to breathe. I made it when I was 7. I thought if I made something nice, they'd stop yelling. The defendant closes his eyes, pain ripping through him like a confession he never meant to face. Judge Judy speaks slowly, like she's delivering truth across a battlefield of wounds. He kept this, not out of love, but out of control. Because this card proves that the fighting didn't begin with your mother. It began long before you could even understand it. The mother sobs quietly, shaking her head. I didn't know. I didn't know he kept that. I would never have let her think. You didn't know, Judy replies, not unkindly. But now you do. The truth echoes through the courtroom, raw, undeniable. Judge Judy sets the card down and looks at the defendant. This is emotional manipulation spanning years. This is control masquerading as concern. This is a pattern of behavior that has harmed not just one adult, but a child who trusted you. He breaks. Tears spill over, shoulders shaking, remorse colliding too late with consequence. I didn't mean to hurt her, he whispers. Judy's voice sharpens. But you did. She lifts her gavel slightly, just an inch off the block, enough to signal the verdict is close. Before I deliver judgment, she says, I will give each person one final chance to speak. The mother steps forward, voice trembling as she prepares to face the truth. The defendant grips the table as if bracing for impact. Judge Judy turns to the girl last. "Do you wish to say anything before I rule?" The child lifts her head, eyes red but clear. She opens her mouth, and the entire courtroom leans in, knowing her next words will shape the final verdict. Before the verdict falls, ask yourself, can someone truly change once their lies are exposed, or do real consequences have to arrive first? The girl stands there, small, tear-streaked but unbroken, and for the first time, the courtroom feels less like a battleground and more like a place where something can finally heal. Judge Judy studies her, then sets the gavel down gently, as though placing a final piece into a puzzle that has taken years to assemble. "Go on," Judy encourages. "Say what you need to say." The child inhales slowly, steadying herself. Her voice comes out soft but pure. "I don't want revenge," she says. "I just want the truth to matter." The mother presses a hand to her heart as fresh tears rise. The defendant bows his head, shoulders collapsing beneath a weight he created and can no longer outrun. Judge Judy nods slowly, deeply. "Young lady," she says, "because you told the truth today, bravely, clearly, and without malice, you have changed more than this case. You have changed the future of your own life." She turns to the mother. "You will have primary responsibility for this child's emotional and physical stability. That means counseling, structure, honest communication, and absolutely no more secrets." You allowed silence to grow, but today you've shown the courage to break it. "I expect you to continue that courage without fail." The mother nods through tears. "I will, I promise." Judy then pivots toward the defendant, her tone turning to ice. "As for you," he lifts his eyes, red-rimmed, desperate, knowing the verdict is coming but needing to hear it anyway. "You manipulated the truth. You hid evidence. You silenced a child. You controlled the narrative not to protect her, but to protect your image." He shakes his head weakly. "I didn't mean—" "Intent," Judy interrupts, "is irrelevant when the impact is this severe." A thick silence settles. You will no longer have unsupervised involvement in this child's life until you complete counseling, anger management training, and demonstrate consistent honesty and accountability. And know this, she leans forward, voice like stone, "Should any further manipulation or intimidation surface, I will personally ensure this case is referred to the appropriate authorities." His face crumples, the final remnants of denial dissolving into remorse. Too late. Far too late. Judge Judy returns her attention to the little girl. "You were never the problem," she says softly. "You were the compass pointing everyone to the truth. And today, you set the record straight." A tear slips down the girl's cheek. But this one is different, lighter, freer. Judy lifts the gavel. "This courtroom stands with you, and from this moment forward, your childhood begins again, without fear." A single strike, echoing like a promise. The mother pulls her daughter into an embrace, not desperate, not frightened, but protective in a way she should have long before. The defendant wipes his eyes, watching the pair with a grief that stings because he knows the truth now has consequences he can't undo. Judge Judy gathers her files, but she pauses, just for a moment, to look at the child one last time. "You reminded us all," she says quietly, "that honesty isn't loud, it's brave." The girl nods, holding her mother's hand, and as they walk out of the courtroom, together this time, no longer divided by lies, the air feels lighter, as if a storm passed and left something cleaner behind. Because in the end, arrogance collapses, truth rises, and even a child can rebuild what adults break, with nothing but courage and her own voice.